Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 14 of Inbound Now. Today I have a very special guest with me, Mr. CC Chapman.
What's up, man?
CC is the co-author of Content Rules with Ann Hanley. He's the founder of a site called Digital Dads. He's a consultant, he's a speaker, and he's a professional creative he puts out a lot of interesting ideas about content marketing and just a lot of great stuff. So I'm really happy to have you on the show here today.
Psyched to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Yeah. So I wanted to get you on the show to talk, a little bit about the concepts in your book, Content Rules,
Okay.
and really just dive into all things content marketing.
We can do that.
Cool. So yeah. So, there's this shift happening, right, where companies need to rethink how they're marketing to their, prospective customers and what have you, where they need to think of themselves more as content publishers.
Yep.
That's kind of the key concept around your book, right? So what would be some of the key ingredients for some of these companies to think about when, creating a successful content strategy?
Yeah, so in the book, Content Rules, we laid out 11 what we called rules. I mean, we say rules kind of funny because we're like, none of this is hard and fast. It changes, it evolves. They're more guidelines, but content guidelines doesn't make for a sexy book title. So we said, all right, Content Rules, that's what we'll call it. And we just we did. One of the first ones we laid out was, you need to embrace that you're a publisher. And it always freaks people out, but it's not that you're printing a magazine. It's not that we're saying your website's the most important thing in the world. We're saying it's a mindset, Publishers think about what next month's magazine is going to have in it. They think about what the cover story is going to be. They know the next 3 months usually. And that's a mindset we want people to get into. And we laid out, there's 11 of them of the rules, but there's things like, be human. We want people to have a legitimate voice. We want them to be, talking like we're talking here, not, freaking out and making sure every word's perfect or salesy or whatnot. We talk about the concept of share or solve, don't shill, which is, really good people in this space, the content they're creating, that Sunday morning voice I got going on, that content they create actually helps their customers, right? Or, it solves a problem for them, or it shares how to do something rather than just buy me, buy me, buy me, buy me, and we lay these all out because we really think, anybody. And when we say customers too, I always give this preface is the fact that, when we say customers and we say company, it also applies to nonprofits and donors, rock bands and fans, any group of people that want more people to come to their group. We firmly believe that content has to be part of what they're doing online, because most people don't have the budget to do big media spends, because let's face it, print, radio, and television still does work. There's a place for them, right, but it's expensive, So content's something that anybody can do. It's just doing it really well and doing it in an engaging enough level for your customers is the hard part that people seem to get stuck on. And we wrote the book kind of hoping, well, here, read this, and hopefully it'll give you some both inspiration, but also tell you what to do, Well, not only do you going to get inspired, but here, we're going to give you some stuff. Go do it right now. So hopefully that's what people are getting out of it.
Right. Yeah. In the book, there's tons of lists, the 24 things of how to source relevant content.
Yep.
I think that's a really awesome part of the book. And then at the end, there's also case studies, kind of how people actually did it. So I think it's a very practical book, and it was a great read. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
So back to that concept of making your company more human, the content that you're creating more human. So a lot of these companies, they basically, their website's just a brochure.
Yeah.
And they have the cookie cutter, mission statement and what have you. So you see that kind of falling by the wayside in lieu of this, content that helps out their market?
I don't know if it goes away. I mean, we firmly believe that you have to have a website. I mean, one of our rules is to create wings and roots, and the roots part is having a home base of operations. I think the days of only having a brochure site, I mean, I remember when the web really blew up, the first bubble, before that, everything was just brochureware. I think the days of that are gone for sure, because people want more. They want to, they're not going to find you by going to their homepage. They're going to go into Google or Bing or whatever search engine comes along, and they're going to type it in, or a friend's going to tell them. The days of where people would randomly see an ad and go type in your URL completely are gone. So I think you have to supplement it with other stuff, and content is that. I mean, content. The brochureware is part of the content, right? I mean, everything. I define it as everything that you create and share to tell your story. And So that the brochureware is a piece of that, but it can't be the only thing, and it can't be the lead thing, because let's face it, people get to your site, they want the information as fast as possible that they're looking for. And if it's some, 10-second flash intro, and nobody wants that anymore. Thankfully, that trend's dying down slowly, not quick enough. But
Right.
yeah, no, I think you have to mix content in, because people want that. They want to see who you are that they're going to do business with, because that old small town mentality of doing business with the people still holds true today whenever possible. I mean, I'll buy, if I have two companies and they have the same product and the price is similar, and I know one on even a little bit level, like they're creating, maybe video content, or they wrote something, or I met them at a conference, I'm going to buy from that person over the other one. And that's true for pretty much it's human nature, right? If you have any connection with a company, you're going to buy from them over the other. So
Yeah, totally. Creating that content is a great way to keep people engaged and really, making your website into more of a hub rather than just that 5-page brochure site. Having a blog, creating content that's helping out your market.
Yeah.
Either do their job better, what have you. I mean, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, because nobody comes back to see that brochureware again. Ooh, it's Saturday morning. I got to go see that again. Nobody does that, But let me go see what Company X did. Oh, did they write something? Oh, cool, they wrote a new post. That's going to keep people bringing back and engaging with the brand. And the other thing that most companies need to realize is that maybe they're not going to engage with you necessarily on your site to start. I might see somebody on Twitter say something, and let me go read that. Or friend on Facebook. There's all these other pieces. Like you said, your site's your hub, which it has to be. But people are going to come in from all sorts of directions now. It's not that. And nobody ever goes back to look at the brochure more than once, ever.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, so with all these different kinds of content that you can create, ebooks, white papers, FAQs, videos, podcasts, case studies, tools, and in the book you say, puppet shows, kind of as a joke. I thought that was funny. But
but as a joke, it's funny you mentioned that, because we had to update our slide deck because about a month ago, Anne got a note from someone saying, "Hey, look, we did a puppet show." And I want to say it's called Agilent Technologies. I'm blanking, but they make industrial. They sell like vats of chemicals to engineers and biochemists and stuff. And they made a puppet show. And Anne was because it was totally like a throwaway joke in the book. But we now have an example of a puppet show, and these are scientists doing a puppet show, and it's just like we just bowed down and said thank you very much. So it's not just a throw. You can do puppet shows, but now it's been done. So you got to think of something else.
So that's a viable, piece of
Why
content
not?
you can create now. Interesting.
It could be a whole new. I'm sure right now someone's watching this and coming up with a startup idea, and they're going to get stupid amounts of funding for puppetshows.me or something. Just you heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm going to register that right after.
Go get it. Yeah, steal it.
So creating all this content is hard work, right?
Yeah.
So what advice would you have? Give B2B companies as a jumping off point. Kind of getting all this stuff in order and starting out.
Well, the hardest thing is you really need to figure out what you want to create, because let's face it, content is a beast, right? Once you start doing it, to do it right, this is not a one and done thing. This isn't, we're going to set up the website and then forget about it. This is something that has to become part of your core DNA, right? That you keep doing on a regular basis. So if you're just starting out, what I always tell people is one of our rules is play to your strengths. Figure out what you're good at or what you enjoy doing. Me, I do not enjoy editing video, so I don't do a lot of video, or when I do video, it's very raw, straight to the camera, what's up, type of video. I much prefer to write or take photos. Figure out what you're into, because you don't have to do it all. Everybody thinks they have to jump into video and blog writing right away. But let's face it, you can pick something that you're really into and start there and get really, really, really good at it. Is the first thing I would suggest. But also, on the flip side of that is look at where your customers, especially if you're a B2B company, what your customers are doing, right? Whether they sit at their desks all day, if they're a mobile group. It depends on what you're selling. But figure out where they are. What are they consuming, right? That may be hard to know. Send out a quick survey if you need to. Hey, we're thinking about, do you read your content, watch it, or listen to it? Nothing hurts, because then who knows what kind of feedback you might get. You might be shocked what they're doing, but figure out how they're consuming it. Because if you're making a ton of video content and you've got and you're selling to people who are on the go all the time and maybe they can't watch video, that quickly is going away as a concern, because you can watch a video everywhere. But really figure out where they are and then start and realize that realize that your first few pieces of content are probably going to not be that great. You know, everybody starts off as like, oh god, especially if you're doing like something in video, you work out the kinks, you figure that out. But just start. It's funny because I know I just wrote an article that's going live some point here in the near future about, you know, I call it the lunch hour content strategy, where I'm like, here's what you can do every day. Here's an hour. Just start. And anybody can start. It's not far too many people wait for perfection. It's like, I got to get this just right before it goes, and then they never do because they keep tweaking it and tweaking it. Just put it out there. Publicize it privately if you need to. There's plenty of ways you can do this without sharing it with the world at first. And then when you're ready, you know, let it go. You'll be okay. It'll hurt a little bit, but you'll be okay.
I mean, yeah, striving for perfection when you're just starting off is kind of like you'll never ship anything.
No.
You're just going to get stuck in that circular, it's not quite right.
Right, and we all do that. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, there's like certain things we really want to get just right, but you're right. I mean, you know, Seth Godin talks about that all the time. You know, you must be shipping all the time,
yeah.
And it's true, and it always feels better. And you know, it always makes me laugh when I see people like slaving over a blog post, and I'm just like, put it out there. You've got it 99% of the way. If you have a mistake or something, you'll fix it. It's okay, but. Yeah, far too many people get stuck, and we all get there sometimes. I'm not saying that we don't, but
right.
just do it. Get it out there.
But yeah, even those imperfections, though, it can kind of show that you're you know, a B2B company. There's humans behind there, and humans make mistakes. And
exactly, and we all do it, right? I mean, some of the funniest things. I mean, I remember one time I made a huge grammatical mistake because my grammar is not very good, and I know that. But it was funny because it sparked a conversation in the comments. People were focusing, and then it all came out. I was like, oh, I'm an idiot, but. Exactly that. We're human, right? There's nothing wrong with having some fun, talking conversationally, and yet companies forget about that. They especially because one of the things we did, you know, B2B, we have a whole chapter in the book dedicated to B2B, and our publisher kind of laughed at us and said, "Why are you doing that?" And we said, "Because wherever we go and speak, people are always, well, how does this apply to B2B?" And I love that the first paragraph of that chapter says, because it's chapter 10, and it says the first 9 chapters completely apply to you too. But we kind of wanted to answer all. Look, we respect B2B companies. We know that they are different, but they're not that different when it comes to content. So, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, that chapter, you named it like, attention B2B marketers, this chapter is for you. So
yes.
I thought that was kind of clever. If someone were to open it up in a bookstore, like, oh, hey, look at that.
Well, that's what we had to have fun with it, but it is true. Every time I get on stage, someone says, "Well, what about B2B? We're different." And Ann works for Marketing Profs. They're a B2B company, and so she's always like, "I work for one. Come on." So we just wanted to put that in and really clearly spell out, look, this is for everybody. It's not just B2C. Like, because far too many people think that.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, back to your point of, you know, starting with one thing and getting really good at that. I totally agree. So once you do that and you kind of get, you know, whether it's podcasting, video, you know, pictures, blogging, whatever it is, you know, one of the chapters in the book is talking about reimagining your content and repurposing it for other stuff, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
So one of our rules is reimagine, don't recycle. What we're getting at is, to start, especially when you're starting out, I guarantee you there's content you have already. It might be your brochureware, it could be photos from an event, maybe it's a video of your speaker, of your executive speaking or whatnot. And what we talk about is, instead of recycling is when you just go, okay, we're going to throw it out on all the channels. We're going to throw it out again because everybody missed it. We're going to retweet ourselves or put it on Facebook. That's fine. I mean, when you first do it, you should do that. You should put it on all the channels to make sure people see it. But reimagining is a mindset that, especially as you go forward, we think will help you greatly, because it's where you're thinking, all right, I'm going to videotape this event, but what else could I do with it? Could I transcribe it into a blog post? Maybe I'm writing this ebook, and I want to, maybe you could videotape all the authors, so that way after the ebook's out, you can release these videos once a week. And every time you do that, it'll generate more interest in the ebook. It's more of it's a thought process, right? I mean, recently, my favorite example of it happened this past week when Google had Lady Gaga in their office to speak as part of this Authors at Google that they do. But what I thought was amazing was that while I love Lady Gaga, and I'm free to admit it, it's all good. But what I loved the most was the 1.5-minute intro Google did for her. They took data, you know, Google's all data, and they took all this stuff and they made it into like cool, you know, put Lady Gaga as a soundtrack behind it, but they were like showing her stats, like how many searches on Google, how many YouTube parodies. I mean, and they just made this really interesting. And that was reimagining content that Google already had. It's data. It's kind of boring, you know. and made it sexy. It made it really relevant. I'm like, and it's so funny because literally I called up Ann. I'm like, Ann, look what Google's doing. They're reimagining. It's awesome. And it just was a cool example where they took the stuff that they already had, but they reimagined it in something very, very cool. It was like almost like a living infographic. It was really nicely done. And there's no reason, and people are like, I know people are watching right now going, well, that doesn't apply to me. But it can be something as simple as I spoke to a college down in Florida, and the event photographer was taking a lot of behind-the-scenes photos in addition to the regular ones. He took the behind-the-scene ones and used this free tool called Animoto and made like a slideshow with some of my quotes that I gave during my speech and these behind-the-scene photos. And it was just a cool another way, and then the school used it as a way to promote the webinar to people who missed it because they archived it. I was like, what a neat idea. So there's lots of ways you can reimagine. It's a way of thinking of what else can I do to generate interest in this product. And usually you have to think about it up front, especially if you're doing something like video or whatnot. You need to think about, well, what am I going to do? So the next time you're writing that ebook or you're writing your newsletter, flip on the video camera and videotape the people you're interviewing for those things, because you never know what you can do with that content after the fact.
Right. And video can turn into audio really
exactly.
easily. I mean, dead simple. You transcribe the everything that we're saying here. This show will be transcribed, put up, so it's search engine friendly. So
there's so many ways, and it's just but you have to think about that before and it's that's one of the rules. It's hard to flip a switch on, because it's the more that you do it, you'll all of a sudden go, oh, wait a minute, can't we do this? And yes, you can. So the more you can think of, we're going to be holding this event. What can we do with this event to make it even have more legs? Maybe we videotape it. Maybe we interview people. Maybe we have somebody take photos. You start thinking about that, because then after the fact, it's better than just saying, hey, we had an event. You now have more proof. There's something more engaging with it. So people need to start thinking that way.
Right. So yeah, in the book, you say, companies should think about, if they have a big idea, they can basically break that into smaller chunks, and that's kind of a way to reimagine it, or starting with smaller, maybe blog posts and kind of putting it into a compilation. So there's different ways to approach it, and I don't think that people should get stuck on,
No.
I can't think of anything,
It's funny, Joe Chernoff from Eloqua the other day, he said something that cracked me up. He was like, he's like, it's like you got the watermelon, right? Gallagher has the big watermelon and sets it down, and it's not funny till he smashes it into a bunch of little pieces. And I went, that's a perfect analogy, because it is. It's the little pieces that make it funny and whatnot. And I can already see people rolling their eyes going, wait a minute, what are we talking about now, CC? But I thought that works, because it's like I've got this big ebook or this big webinar that I'm setting down, but how can I break it up into littler chunks to make it more attractive to people? So it is a mindset, and it takes a little while to wrap your head around it, but it'll make Ann very happy that you brought up that question. That's her favorite rule. She loves it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so in the book, another one, it's not really a case study, it's a story you tell earlier in the book, but you talk about Marcus Sheridan. And I can't remember his company's name right now, but he runs a pool business, right?
Yeah.
And he basically turned his business's site into the online Wikipedia for pool information.
Yeah, exactly, right.
so he focuses on like long tail keywords and the content that answers the questions that his would-be buyers are searching for. And a lot of companies are using this idea and kind of applying that, but what's going to happen when the web starts becoming like oversaturated with content? How are companies still going to stand out?
Yeah, it's tough, and that's a great story too, because people, he thought, okay, what are my customers going to ask for questions? Let me answer those questions ahead of time, and it's all keywords, it's all smart. What's going to make it step beyond now, and you're already seeing this in Google. If you're active online, you're seeing this already in Google, where when I do a search, if somebody I know shared something or liked something, that shows up too. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This looks like, if I see a page of results, but then I see, Jason Falls suggested this, I'm going to click on that one first, right? I mean, I think that the whole social graph is going to become really, really interesting, because unfortunately right now where, if I have a whole bunch of Twitter followers or I have a whole bunch of Facebook fans or whatever, that kind of dilutes it a little bit. When you boil it back to the people you really, really trust, I think that's going to kind of help filter the web, and you're seeing things starting to help filter that, and it's going to be these connections where you haven't seen this integration yet, but like I like a brand on Facebook or I like them on their website, that's going to start showing up in search results for my friends. I totally see that happening down the road. So that concept of clicking that like button is going to be much, much more, because right now it's kind of like, yay, I like them, but in the future it's going to be, yay, I like them, and I'm sort of endorsing them. So that like's going to become harder to click on, because people are it's gonna be an endorsement. But I think that's where it's gonna go, is that, there has to be these filters brought in, and you're gonna trust. It's the same thing. I trust what if I need someone to mow my lawn and I ask my neighbors, they're gonna tell me. If I'm looking to buy something online, I'm gonna go to my online community and ask who they trust. And it's funny, Chris and Julian's book Trust Agents was way ahead of the curve, because what they're talking about is crucial coming forward, and I think that's going to help filter things out. I don't remember the old days when we used to just randomly surf the web looking for information. Like in the morning, like, oh, let me go check out these sites. Now it's you go to your reader, or you see what your friends are clicking on or sharing. It totally changed. I think it's going to continue to change. We're not going to go randomly looking for stuff. We're going to get it through our friends and family.
Right. So yeah, I think that's one of the things Google's probably working on. One of the hardest things, like building that more and more into their algorithm, where it's more perfect. Because like you said, right now it's not really quite there. Another thing that is kind of a trend that I'm seeing is these micro communities where I think it's called Path or something, where you can only have 150 friends. It's like basically limiting you down to those close connections, because we do kind of start to follow a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
friend people. So it kind of dilutes your network, right?
And it's a weird. Someone some interview asked me about what I think the future is, and I said the future is smaller social networks. It really is, because like someone like me on Facebook, for a while ago, like I'd have fans like my podcast friend me, and I'd accept them. I'm like, yeah, sure. Or then now fans of the book, and yeah, sure. But now it's like, who are these people? I'm seeing Facebook updates. I'm like, I don't know these people, and I don't like that feeling now. I'm like, Twitter's one thing. Twitter gave you lists, so I could filter, who I need to pay attention to, or different organizations and groups. Right. But yeah, I still want the small, tight knit. Like, I haven't heard of Path, but I like the idea. Just when you said 150, I'm like, because it really focuses you on who do I really want. But what's interesting is, when it comes to business, there's probably a different group than like social, there's, like friends. So it's really a tough thing. But I was just thinking about Google. I mean, how cool would it be if you did a search for, because people always forget that Google owns YouTube, so video is kind of important these days. Right. And if you searched for something and your friend, somehow it knew your friend was in a video. Someone searched for content and they knew me, and it wouldn't you want this video to come up ahead of everything else because they already knew me? I mean, that's got to get added in the algorithm at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and God knows, I'm sure Google's probably got it already working internally or something, knowing them, right?
Yeah, they got, so they're like launching their own like social network or something. I don't know. I haven't really heard too much about it.
Yeah. Hello or whatever or something.
I thought it was like Circles. I don't know.
Oh, Circles. Yeah, you're right. But Hello's something else they have. They have all these little. It's like, guys, could you have a few more products while you take over the world? Come on.
Usually they're social. They're when they dip their foot in the social realm, it falls flat on its face, like Wave and Buzz and
it's funny though, because I loved Wave and I still use Buzz, but nobody else does. Buzz is currently my ultra filter for content. I follow a very, very select few people on Buzz, but everything they share I read religiously because it's so trusted. It's like my ultimate filter currently, and I haven't found anything better yet.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny. Most people think it's totally dead because it pretty much is, I think. But I use it every day.
Right. I think it just got hyped up, but no, we have mad love for Google over here at HubSpot. They're one of our recent investors. So.
Oh yeah, see better.
I love Google. I don't Bing. Who Bings? Do you Bing?
Nobody. The only it's so funny that I always put that out there because one time I had someone in the audience go, well, "What about Bing and these other search engines?" And I'm like, okay, so that's why I was like, Google. I'm like, sorry guys, the search war is currently over. I remember when it was all Yahoo, so who knows? Someone could dethrone Google, but right now I'm like, why Bing even exists cracks me up. I don't know.
Totally. All right, so I guess we went a little on the tangent there. Back to the content. Let's talk about content. So in the book, you talk a little bit about content curation.
Yeah.
And how it can be a great supplemental source for companies to kind of get more stuff on their site, keep people more engaged. So can you talk a little bit more about content curation?
Yeah, so content curation is a great way, especially for small businesses or companies who don't think they have the time to create all their own content, is to pull together relevant content and share it with your community. So if pick a day, and every day on every Tuesday you go out and you publish the 5 top stories in your industry. People will start liking that, right? Because all of a sudden you're becoming the filter to your community. And this, this could be competitors' information, it could be whatever it is, but these filters, people are looking for this. Like we were just talking about, all that content out there, they're looking for filters, and you can become that filter. One of the things we really highly suggest is not to just grab the top 5 links or top 10, whatever number you want, but also put your thoughts behind it, because then you slowly, well, I hate the thought leadership tag, but you start, here's this breaking headline, and here's why I think it's important for our industry. All of a sudden, you're adding to it, and people are going to want that. They're going to start trusting in you, and it's a great way to get the information out there, because people want this information, right? And all of a sudden, if you're the site, if you're sharing this information, they don't have to go searching every day. You've just made their job easier, so they're going to keep coming back to you. And this is going to be other competition in your space, going to be potential customers. It's going to be other people that you want to get in front of. So it's a great way to do it without you having to create the content.
Right.
Just make sure, because someone always brings it up, of course, you link to the original. You're not scraping and pulling it over. You're linking, you're giving them credit, you're hyperlinking, you're doing all the right things, because it's not your content. But someone always brings up, well, isn't curation stealing? I'm like, not when it's done right, it's not. I'm like, yeah, you can be a scum and do it wrong and scrape it. That's not right. But if you're just linking and talking about it, it's fine. So
right. Yeah, and just like I would also say to that point, having the human element there, because there's ways to automate these things, and stuff is going to get through that you don't really want to share. So I mean, you need that human, curator. You need someone there actually sourcing the content, reading through it, making sure that it's something valuable to share out.
Yeah, and make sure you are reading the content. It's nothing funnier than when someone curates something and all they did was read the sexy headline. I hate that on Twitter. I've watched me tweet out a link and watch it get retweeted. I'm like, you didn't read what I've always wanted to make a really sensational headline and link it to a graphic that says, "You idiots, you don't read before you retweet." I just have never done it, but it's just, you see that happen. And it's like, guys, you got to be careful about that. Don't judge based on the headline, right? Always make sure you actually read, watch, or listen to the content you're sharing, because you got to make sure you know what you're putting out there. And that is part of that's why you need humans and not automated, because automated tools can help for sure, but you have to have that human factor. Yeah. Definitely.
And I think adding your opinion at the end there, just saying what this is about, why you think it's important, it just adds to the story. You're adding value there.
Right, and don't freak out that, some people go, well, that's me endorsing it. No, it's not. It's you telling why you shared this link. That's all people are looking for. It's not rocket science. And that's where people get freaked out too. Like, well, I'm not, I'm linking to the New York Times. How can I critique that? I'm like, well, you're not critiquing it. You're saying why you're sharing it. It's focus on that. If you're curious, if you're stuck on what to say, answer that question. Why am I sharing this? Why is this important? And that's all you have to do. You don't have to go any deeper than that to start.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have a fan question here from Emily Evelina, and I might have messed up her name. I'm very bad at pronunciations. Grammar for you, pronunciation for me. So we all have our weaknesses. But okay, so she asks, how to measure, content's value when clients are so hooked on SEO metrics. So what are some of the core metrics to keep an eye on in the content, game? What are some things to benchmark against? Yeah,
so one of the things that I'm a huge advocate for is upfront, and the key part is upfront. Figure out how you're going to measure success. Why are you going to go down this path, right? Because let's face it, you should measure on things like views if you're doing video, listens for podcasts, subscribers, comments for blog posts, right? You should measure on those. I'm not saying measurement's bad, but at the same time, some of it's going to be harder to measure, right? Some of it is that gut feeling of, yes, this is helping. And I know people hate that, but I'm sorry. There is the touchy, that's the social aspect of the web, right? You should track, shares. How many people share this, post it to Facebook? That depending on how you set up your site, that's harder or easier. There's technology there for you. But the key part is figuring up front how you're going to measure it. Say for the next 3 months, we want to increase, one of the things I say is, don't say we want more views. Say we want to increase our viewership by 10,000 or whatever the number is. Pick the number that's right for you. But then you can look at it and do it short term. Look at 3 months. We want to increase our readership by X. And then you can look and go, well, did we hit it? Did we not? How could we ramp it up even more? Oh, look, we did do this with no budget. What if we add some budget? What could we do then? That's the way I always suggest approaching it, because especially content, it takes a while to get going, right? Unless you get lucky, right? You make some really cool video, you write a post that's really, resonates with people. The truth of the matter is, you don't usually know when those are going to happen. You create a video that people will share all over the place, or you write a post that really sparks some conversation. It's hard to know when that's going to happen. Granted, sometimes you're writing it, you're like, ooh, this is going to be good, but you never know if it's really going to click with people. So it's hard. So you have to embrace the fact that this is a long-term approach, right? It's going to build organically. There are things you can do to supplement it, sure, but it's not going to. Quick hit success is rare, and a lot of it's luck, or it's a big media spend. Most people don't have the money to do that.
So yeah, I mean, the way that I look at, content creation and, housing that all on your website, it's like an annuity for your business. Each
Exactly.
piece builds and builds and builds, and it's not going to go away. Whereas PPC, you flip the switch, it's gone. So
Right. Yeah, I had someone the other day said, well, CC, my boss isn't willing to wait 6 months for success. He wants it in 6 days. How do we do that? I said, oh, that's easy. And she looked at me. I said, spend a lot of money. Do a big media spend, because that's the only option at that point, right? If you need results that fast, it's a media spend. And she got really mad at me, and I said, well, I'm sorry. That's the real answer. If anybody tells you anything else, they're lying to you. If you want results that fast, you buy a lot of, click ads, Facebook. Yeah. Google. I mean, there are ways to do it. Buy a big billboard in Times Square. I mean, there's lots of things you can do.
Charlie Sheen to be your spokesperson.
Exactly. But all that costs money, and I said most people don't have the money to just throw that. I said, and you know what? You're going to throw a bunch of money at it. You're going to get that wave of people come, but are they ever going to come back? There's and we talked after the fact because she was kind of mad, I think, at me, but I'm like, sorry, that's the truth.
Cool. So yeah, I guess you kind of already talked about the future of this stuff, but like moving into the future, where do you see content marketing and B2B companies moving forward? What do you see as a trend coming up in later 2011 and further on?
I think what's really cool is that all the tools to create content are getting quicker and smaller and faster. I can do everything I want on this, right? I can create every single piece of content I want on my smartphone, and not just an iPhone, whatever, pretty much any smartphone these days. You can create content and consume that content just as easily as you can on a computer. And I think we're going to see that trend go even further, where I would love to see more companies do, oh, you're in my store, create something, whether it's in the dressing room at well, that could be bad, but but trying on clothes at a retailer, or why wouldn't it be cool if Sears all of a sudden had their cameras in the store? You could actually create and post content. It would actually be a living wall of content created with the product sitting right there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for stuff there to happen, where the content creation can happen right there on the spot. And yeah, there's all the administrative and all that. I mean, because you always need that stuff, but I think that concept is ripe to happen. I mean, you're seeing things like that starting to trickle out. And I'm really hoping businesses start embracing the fact that their customers can in fact be fans and advocates for them, and they can be some of the most, you can't create all this content, but if you enable your fans and your biggest advocates to create for you, and this can happen for B2B too. I mean, if you have a special connection with a company, you will help them, right? You will tell other people. I just think there's this huge opportunity there, and I hope they, companies, I can already feel people tightening up watching this, going, "Oh, we can't do that." But yeah, you can. You gotta put some trust, and yeah, you be selective and you be smart about it. But I think there's a huge opportunity. I think we're going to see more of that happen, because let's face it, everybody trusts what another person says that doesn't work for a company over what someone who works for the company says, and there's nobody on this planet that can't leverage that. So I hope we see more trend towards that.
Okay, cool. So yeah, where can people find you online, CC?
I'm everywhere. No, I mean, the easiest place to find me is cc-chapman is my website.com. It's got links to everything. The book can be found at contentrulesbook.com, and it's available everywhere the books and ebooks are sold, which is cool. So I'm CC_Chapman on Twitter. So those are probably the easiest places to find me.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely recommend everyone watching, get a copy of Content Rules. It's a great read, and there's some really great actionable items in there. And CC, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. All right. I guess that was a weird outro, but that's good, yeah.